Okay, so we are live. Hi, everyone. I hope you can see us, and if so, please write us down. I truly hope that we can see both you and Diane, me and Diane, and you are all in here. I think that I can see us both. Jan, how are you? I still can't see your camera, by the way. So while we're speaking, try to log in from a different browser again. And if there's anyone in here, please write down in comments, hi, how are you? And let's see that everyone is here. Jan, how are you, by the way?
Hi, Ren. Great to be here. Actually, this is my first time being live on the internet before, so I'm very excited to meet you and everyone in the audience. And I hope I soon will see each other. Let me just check.
We'll see you soon, I'm sure. And I already see that there are several people in here, so please say hi. And by the way, please feel free to share our live. We're going to speak about very cool things. So while we're speaking and sharing, you'll tell us a bit about yourself, Jan, for the people that are not familiar with you so far.
Yeah, wait, give me 1 second. Maybe I can now connect the actual cam.
Sure,
I think I have to reconnect to the stream. Give me 1 second.
No problem. We'll wait for you. No, not yet.
3, 2, 1. And now it says I'm live.
You are live. Yes, Jan.
Yes. Okay, but can you see me right now? No, you can't, correct?
No, at least we have your name here. So
okay, that's not too bad.
By the way, you don't need to imagine Jan. Jan is a blonde, nice person. By this time that we have at least your name, why won't you talk a bit about yourself for the people that are not yet familiar with you?
Yes, I would love to. Maybe for those who don't know me, my name is Jan FREY. I'm living in Germany, and for almost 3 years now, I've been working as a web developer for Shopify projects exclusively. Back then, I started as a freelancer and had a couple projects here and there. And nowadays, I'm working in an agency. It's well known here in Germany. It goes by the name of ESHOP Guide. Yeah, on the side, I'm running a small YouTube channel where I teach a bit of the web development I'm doing, and I try to guide new developers through their first projects. Yeah, and the agency and the channel is also how I got in touch with Ren. Thank you for organizing this.
Yes, of course. So for the people that don't know, I really like to travel and go to different e-commerce meetups and big events around the globe. Now it's a bit hard because of COVID, but I met eShop Guide in several events, both in Germany itself, in Shopify Pursuit Berlin, and also in another one, a very, very exclusive big event that is called Berlin E-commerce Expo, with more than 5,000 or 6,000 anticipators. That is really amazing, and I hope that by next February you'll be able to fly there as well from all over the world, and things will be behind us. But by then, will be, I'll tell you that I met Jan specifically, not just in those events, but also in his YouTube channel. And I bet that some of you guys already saw the videos of Jan. I shared them in our in our group as well. And Jan talks mostly about development in Shopify, and I know that most of you are not that familiar with development of on Shopify. Ask for different developers to do the work for you, or use some freelancers or outsource to run your business. And nowadays, we'll speak with Jan about his way in Shopify development. I'll tell you that he didn't start with computer science, and he didn't start with developing on Shopify, but on WordPress. Is that correct, Jan?
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, let's say the pursuit of my career was more that I actually studied mechanical engineering, and I have a degree in mechanical engineering, which is, like, besides having a good taste for beer, maybe the most German thing one can do.
You're very good at most things.
If you say so, I'm honored.
It's in your anthem, Deutschland über alles.
Yeah, okay, we don't say that anymore, but
okay.
When I studied engineering, I actually got in touch with coding and programming, and I fell in love with it, let's say. But back then, I wasn't quite able to do the things that I would like, because whenever I worked in a company or something, I had to work on different things. And then I was searching for a way to make a living of the things that I would like. And then I thought, okay, most likely I can't sell any software to a big, large company, but eventually I could build websites for smaller businesses, local businesses. And that's how I actually got into WordPress, correct? And from one day, I eventually discovered Shopify. And that's how everything started, with the first project, got the agency.
Good side.
Yeah. And then I got into the
WordPress in here, the dark side. And by the way, I would just like to let you know that I didn't know that, but I was surprised to see that even that our community is focused on Shopify and speak about Shopify only. People that love e-commerce also are members of our community, and like to have some feedbacks and reviews about their WordPress website as well. So they are here as well, and they speak your language as well, speaking about WordPress, not German. And so you started with mechanical engineering. How did you get into computer science, into development? And do you think that everyone can get into development? Do they need to have some kind of a background to start with it?
It's a tricky question. Let's maybe we can start with the university degrees and formal education, because as I just told you, I personally haven't got a degree in computer science, but somehow I managed to get into the Shopify space or in the web development space eventually. And I think what I hear very often in the making money online space is that you don't need a college degree at all, and it's time waste if you're an entrepreneur, yada, yada, yada. But I have to say that I disagree with this point of view a little bit, because because for many people, formal education is still very, very beneficial, because it actually takes quite a lot of discipline to sit down at home and stick with all the things. But depending on your access to education, or what kind of, let's say, a learner you are, what learning type is best for you, I would also argue that a college degree is not necessary. But if someone decides to go for it, I'm just fine with it, and everyone has to make his own way and his own experience in that regard.
That's totally correct. And by the way, I had a video from the educational ministry, or the high educational ministry, just about that. I spoke about that. It's nice, and you can learn many things on the internet, but once you have a degree and learn several courses, at least you have a background, and nowadays you have the skills to learn yourself. So you also learn skills and not just the relevant info of your function, of your the things that you need to know. For example, in my computer science degree, I must admit that we haven't learned a thing about e-commerce, but I was involved in Yotpo company. If you probably know Yotpo as for the Shopify app.
Yeah, I do.
What, 11 Shopify apps? Oh, now we can see you. We can see you on camera.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Awesome. Nice to meet everyone. Hi.
Now you can see that Jan is also a very nice, charismatic person. So back to Yotpo. I learned the e-commerce world from a company, a high-tech company that is working in the e-commerce world. And as I adopt the different skills of learning new stuff, I could continue from that point and learn many other things as well. So, by the way, there are more anticipators in the live right now, just that they saw you and understood that it's real and happening.
Awesome.
So you started your way as a developer, and from our chat back then, before the event itself, you said that there are several coding languages that are more relevant to people that like to develop on Shopify, right? So whether they are freelancers, whether they are the store owners, they need to know some HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or front-end languages. Please give us from your experience.
Okay, so I think we have to separate two things. And one thing is actually working as a developer, or maybe an agency owner, or in an agency as a developer. These are like the working side of things, and actually running a store as a merchant, as you said. I think as a merchant, it's okay if you have a little CSS and HTML knowledge, but it's not like required at all, because you could still outsource these things and consult with agencies, with partners, so that they get the development done for you. And I think if you want to work as a developer, like full-time, then you can either decide if you want to be a freelance developer or work in an agency, because both have their pros and cons, and they also have different requirements regarding the skill set, I believe. And if you would ask me for like my top 3 things that I could recommend to become a developer, is first of all, you would need to learn the technical side of things. We will talk about that more in this video, I think, or in this live event. And the second thing is that you should always try to have a paid learning experience. And the reason for that is simple, because it will way more connect or commit you to your work. And it requires a bunch of confidence, let's say, not in your current technical skills, but in your ability to research things along the way, which is very important, I believe. And the third thing is that you want to work as loud as possible, not like making physical sound and bashing the keyboard or something, but talking about your work, sharing it on social media, so that many people notice what you do, because this might be like a door opener to further projects. I think this is like what you experience yourself. But yeah, let's talk about the technical things a little bit more in depth, because I think that's what most of people are interested right now. And I would say, like, if you're just starting out, the first or the main focus at all before you write any line of code would be getting familiar with the Shopify backend and the front end settings. And by backend, I mean you should know how to, let's say, create products, how to create pages, collections, make the text settings, maybe set up different shipping zones. Like, there's so many things to do without ever writing a single line of code. And it's the same for Shopify and WordPress, kind of. But you need to know the system that you're working with, if that makes sense. And regarding the front end, in Shopify, you have many different themes that you can use, and you can use a front-end customizer to set up like already beautiful pages if you have a good theme. So you should get familiar with this customizer, and you will use it as a developer anyways. So you need to get familiar with the basics. And when I say the basics, It's actually not basic for someone who's just starting out. But once you get more familiar with the system, these things will seem like very simple.
And by the way, it's very important that just like you said, that for those of you that are not that technical, there are still page builders in Shopify as well, and not Elementor in WordPress. And by the way, Elementor is also Israeli. By the way, did you know that?
Yes, you.
Oh, I told you.
You mentioned that in one of your emails. Yeah. But before I didn't know it. Then I looked it up, and now I know.
Okay, never mind. It has more than 5 million users nowadays, I think, and it's really cool. And by the way, if we're not, we're really good at using the backend, as you mentioned, whether it's going to the Shopify admin, try to create some stores of our own. Maybe we sell in Shopify. And by the way, I'm selling on Shopify as well. And I think that agencies should try to sell on Shopify themselves before they give tips for others. Not including developers, as they can do it also as outsource. But once you are good at the Shopify admin and then did some customizations and modifications for your theme, there's also the front-end development, which can be not just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but there's a specific language that Shopify like to use, the binding one, which is Liquid, right?
Right, absolutely right.
So how a developer or a technical guy or girl that like to combine into the Shopify development start learning Liquid? First of all, I'd like to recommend everyone to watch Coding with Jan YouTube channel that helps many people. I didn't know this channel before, but once I saw it, I just fell in love. And thank you once again for sharing all the content, Jan.
Yeah,
people that like to start, I would like to recommend you to start and watching this YouTube channel. But a part of the YouTube channel, how would you recommend for people to start learning Liquid?
So what you mentioned is, okay, let's say someone is already familiar with HTML and CSS, which makes a big chunk of the website. Almost every website is built in HTML and CSS. Then, as you mentioned, the next step would be to learn Liquid, because Liquid is Shopify's server-side language. And for those familiar with WordPress, it's similar to PHP, but not quite that many functionalities. But it's fine. You can do quite a lot of things with it. And the need or the necessity for Liquid arises because when you're building templates with HTML and CSS, you need to pull data dynamically from the backend, because you don't want to write a template for every single product in your store. You would rather want to have one single template, and that should work with every product. And therefore, you need bits and bytes, like the product title, for instance, that you can pull dynamically with Liquid into your templates, if that makes sense. And there are a lot of information on Liquid on the web, and here it depends a bit on what type of content you prefer. There are some YouTube videos out there. I coincidentally have a video myself that teaches Liquid basics in 10 minutes or something. Then there is a guide from Shopify all around Liquid. I think it's a 90-page PDF. Maybe we can link these things in a follow-up mail for the event or in a follow-up post. So if you prefer readable content, then this would be the way to go. Some great blog articles about server-side languages, Liquid. And one thing that I would recommend in particular is the Liquid cheat sheet, because this contains all the accessible data and conditional logic. So these are great things to start with. And as we mentioned, if you start working with existing themes before you try to build your own themes, then you can already see how other theme vendors use these statements and how they use Liquid to retrieve data. So these are the best things to learn, I think. So I'm always a fan of learning from practical projects and what other things already worked.
By the way, I would like to mention that we created a new channel on LinkedIn, and there we share also some technical parts. Means that with every new technical thing that we've built for example, product pages like customizers, or special fonts for special languages, or combine different fonts for different languages at the same code. And some other cool stuff like meta fields and variants, and how to make Shopify more flexible. We do it there as well. So yeah, I think that you can learn much on the go. And I think that the hardest part is to learn new things from your clients. Basically, they have new demands, and you need to try and make it happen, and try to think sometimes out of the box. So I think that this is the best practice. By the way, on my end, I would like to tell you that although I read a lot daily basis, but mostly religion stuff, so when it comes to learning something new, I truly like to watch videos, and I think that many people like me, also in my degree in university, like to do things on instant and try to find solution as fast as possible, or sometimes just go to Stack Overflow and try to copy and paste. But we really encourage you to try and learn and do things. And by the way, Jan, in some of your videos, you also teach the way of thinking, the way to go and solve this problem, right? Tell us more.
Well, yes, that was one video in particular, and I think someone asked me how to remove some variants from the dropdown that are not available. And then I spin the video around, okay, I have no idea how to do it. Like, it's oftentimes in my job when I get confronted with a new type of requirement. And yeah, then I took the viewer through my thought process, through the process of research, how I get through the forums and test what's working. Yeah, that was a funny idea, and some people liked it. Yeah. Nice. Awesome that you've seen that.
Yeah, of course. And by the way, do you feel that there are things that we can't do in Shopify, or it was a really hard thing? If you can mention some of the things, whether it's in your agency, from eShop Guide, I know that it's much more flexible because first of all, you have Shopify payments, and second of all, you have many clients that are retails on the Shopify Plus plan. So let us know if there is something in particular that was hard for you to do, or a specific demand or something that you get from a client.
So as you just mentioned, the Shopify Plus sector, or Shopify Plus subscriptions, for many merchants, it would be important to modify and customize the Shopify checkout, which is not possible until you're on a Shopify Plus subscription. And I think that's a thing that confronts many store owners in the beginning. But here I would also say, or would also argue, that Shopify is always interested in you having the most success, and they are optimizing the checkout as good as they can. I mean, they have so much data, like they're doing A/B split tests and whatnot. So I think if you're just starting out, you can leave the checkout as it is, and it's good enough, let's say. So yeah, but that's one thing you just can't do with Liquid or whatever when you're just starting out.
I'm so happy that you said that, because I had so many arguments about this subject, and we're speaking about retails that are used to WordPress or Magento, which is very common for retails in Israel. Mostly Magento 2. There are some people that hated Magento so much in version 1, and by Magento is also Israeli, and they hated it. They moved from Magento into Salesforce or to Shopify Plus when it comes to Magento 2 version, and they had to do the upgrade. But I truly agree with you that there is no problem in several steps, and it won't hurt the conversion rate. But as you've done some modification in the checkout Liquid, and you already start speaking about it, do you had any experience or a case study where the conversion just raised out of creating a checkout with only one long page?
No, I actually don't have a case study reference at hand, because most of the time when we start to modify the checkout, we do it in order to simplify the merchant's processes or business processes. Like for instance, maybe you know that the Shopify address line doesn't check for a house number. So if you have, let's say, 1,000 orders a month or 10,000 orders a month, then it can get pretty annoying if you have, let's say, 10 orders without a house number. And then you have to write with the client, hey, what's your house number? We didn't see it in the order. And so things we did integrate into the checkout was, let's say, a house number check or similar things to these related to business processes.
Like adding more properties in the checkout process.
And also like text-based verification or
Okay, that's really cool. I'd like to share with you something the same about us. I was working with a guy in Cyprus, and they don't have house numbers at all. So they need to have coordinates and street name and coordinates, or a map that they have to implement. And by the way, some of the shipping companies would love to have an API just to implement the pickup points in a map. And this is also something that you can do once you are in a plus plan. I would like to ask you, because you've already done several coding, and by the way, I'll just mention some of them and I'll add in comments Jan's YouTube channel, so you'd be able to see some cool stuff like swatch colors. You can see the different variants in a box or in a circle with the color instead of a drop down. And there are many cool other things that he done with metafields and much more. I would like to ask you about the workflow and how we can actually improve our skills.
So regarding the workflow, I think the first improvement that you can make is moving from the integrated Shopify code editor to a local setup where you can use your text editor of your choice. And you can do that by connecting your store with Shopify Theme Kit. It's developed by Shopify and maintained by Shopify. So I also have a video on that. But
you do?
Okay. Yes, because I think this was the very first video I ever did because I knew there was demand. And when I was setting this up initially, I had some troubles and I was reading through documentation. And then I thought, why not making a video about it? But actually, the documentation is good. I was just too dumb back then to implement it. This is like the first step: connecting your store with ThemeKit and then working in a local development environment. And what I also underestimated when I started to develop is the use of Git or like GitHub or Bitbucket. And this will be in particular recommended if you are, or necessary if you start working in teams, like in an agency or with other developers, or if you get a few more projects so that you can track all the changes that you recently made. Because if you get back to a store in like 3 months and you had 20 other stores in between, you will have no idea what you did 3 months ago. And then Git will be like your way to track all the changes, get back to the state. So I think the first best improvements are working local and using Git.
Actually, sorry to interrupt. By the way, you love VS Code like me, right?
I do, yeah.
So several things that are very important, whether you are a freelancer, a developer, an agency, or anything else. Time is money. And if you save time and you can still get a really good pricing, you'll just earn more. If you can do things more automated, it will help you out to earn more and improve your skills. So in VS Code, you can basically do autocomplete in your code, which you can't on a Shopify editor or Shopify admin. And this is just make your life much, much easier. And once Jan spoke about tracking your coding history. So yeah, in your theme, there's no backup. You should do some backups on your own. And if there is something that I truly want to recommend you all, that if you haven't done a backup in the last few months or even for short period of time, please click on online store and then click actions, download theme, and have a backup. Second of all, once you click on action, edit code, you can see the old versions. But what if a client of yours just added a new app? There was a different developer, which is not you, that made changes. And you don't like to argue with the client and said, it's not me, I haven't done anything. You can just track it by Git and show the specific changes that you've made. So first of all, honesty. Second of all, you have a backup. Third, you can do your work much faster. And of course, if you develop Shopify and haven't connected a theme kit into VS Code or any environment at all, please watch Jan's video about it, or at least read the documentation. By the way, Jan, in my point of view, I think that you should always take part in meetups and hear the different news and documentation and changelog of Shopify, specifically if you're developing on Shopify, and if there's some new stuff on front-end development, I would go there as well. In Israel specifically, there are meetups of a very large community called CSS Masters that they are concentrating in Tel Aviv mostly, and do meetups about CSS and front-end development. So if there are any developers at all in here, I would recommend you to join once possible. Nowadays, it is live. And would you recommend on specific events, live events, or things that you like also? I know that eShop Guide also doing some meetups, and whether they're not just in German, because not everyone is familiar with the language, but also in English. Would you recommend on something?
So especially when I was starting out, as I told you, I made the change from mechanical engineering to software development. And for me, it was like I didn't know anyone who was into web development at that time. But as you see, I'm like a communicative person, and I like to talk about the things that I do with other people and exchange new information and stuff. So meetups were like the only way for me back then to get in touch with other people. So there was like maybe one a month, and I was like learning new things, trying new things. And then once a month, I had this like valve to let out all my new information and discuss with other people. So that was truly a great experience. And I would definitely recommend to going as many meetups as you can. Usually the people are there or are very helpful there, because most of the time they can relate to the struggle that you maybe have or with their personal history. So everyone will be grateful to share whatever he knows. And on these meetups, you will also have quite a few merchants. Like if you go to an e-commerce meetup, and I was able to pick a project here and there, even when I wasn't working in the agency. So you just have to go there, introduce yourself as a developer. And this requires a bit of confidence, as I mentioned in the beginning. And as I also mentioned, it doesn't necessarily require confidence in your current technical skills, but at least in the ability to research things along the way, as Shen mentioned. But meetups are definitely recommended, especially if you like to talk from person to person, build your network, and highly recommended.
If we start speaking about it, I would like to ask you, you also had a video about looking for the first projects. I can tell you that the Shopify community in Israel is just growing and growing, and we see that most of it is because of migration. See local platforms that are moving to Shopify because they know that there are no international tools, and in some cases you need to just talk on the phone to the developers of the local platform, and this is just frustrating. Others will look for a solution for a brand store because they used to be in marketplaces like Amazon and eBay. And as the community is growing and there are more store owners, there are also people that are that seeks for work. This is something, the unemployment rate that just raised up because of COVID. also affect us. And I know that some of the people in the community are looking for their first job, first client. And I would speak about a Shopify expert, but unfortunately, it doesn't get any new candidates. So in which platform or where would you start in looking for your first project if you were a beginner once again?
So I think your very best guess is to start seeking your personal network first, because many people starting out just underestimate the reach that they already have. Let's say you have 300 friends at Facebook or 400 followers on Instagram, maybe a few co-workers or whatever you do, and you just tell all of them that you're doing web development now. You're building websites, you're building online shops. Chances are very, very good that someone in your network knows someone who maybe knows someone who maybe knows someone with a local business, or I don't know, his aunt has a coffee shop or whatever. And then you might even be able to pick a cheap project from there. Like not, also what I mean by cheap project is a small project, and in the beginning people tend to charge less than they could, but it's okay because it's a paid learning experience, as I just mentioned. So this would be my first advice: seeking your personal network and not underestimating the reach you already have. Next, we could also think about okay, meetups would be my second best guess, but now as these meetups are live, it's more difficult to get someone notice you and to get in touch with someone. So meetups at this point are not recommended to get new projects. And then we would also have freelance platforms. That would be my third guess, like Fiverr, freelancer.com, maybe StoreTasker, which is a freelance platform exclusively for Shopify. And actually,
sorry to interrupt, but people still ask to become a developer in StoreTasker?
Yes, you can. No, okay, it's maybe StoreTasker is not if you're just starting out, because they actually look for prior experience, and maybe you need a small portfolio just to get in there, just to so maybe Fiverr and Upwork would be, or not Upwork, freelancer.com would be a better guess. But actually the competition is quite high on these sites. I've spoken to some freelancers that are working there, and you have to figure out a way to stand out in some way. And maybe you could record a small video of yourself, introducing yourself, because like literally no one is doing this at this point, and that would be like truly unique, and maybe you could get a project from there.
Of course. By the way, Fiverr is also Israeli. You're more than welcome to join me for a tour in Tel Aviv to see the headquarters. They really grew, and I also like to tell you that if he is in our live, so Ben, I really love you. Ben was the head of growth in Fiverr and used to be my growth consultant in my app, in my startup. Wow. Yeah, so I really love Ben, and I hope that we will all see him in our next Facebook Live, in our next meetup. And by the way, do you think that Fiverr is only for cheap prices, or you'll get only people from a specific place in the world, like from Pakistan or India or anywhere else, and maybe people think bad things about this platform? Like more for professionals?
Actually, I don't know too much about Fiverr's reputation. Okay, of course, it's known for cheap deals, let's say. But you can also get like high quality work there for a fair pricing, I guess. And so I would just recommend giving this a try. And I mean, if you can justify your pricing, yeah, you will have some success on this platform.
So first of all, it's amazing. And I'm thinking nowadays about those things. And from time to time, I also consult new beginners to help them with their agency. And it's very, very important to understand that we don't compete each other. And even if so, there is enough job for anyone. And it's very important to help people to get some job in this hard time where the unemployment rate globally is just rising. What we're going to do now is to get some questions from the audience. So if someone would like to ask anything, we would love to answer, me and Jan. And by waiting for your questions, I will just add that you may also create a LinkedIn profile. I think that there are not that much people that are using that platform, mostly locally. They are too focused on Facebook. And tell me you, Jan, because you're from another country and you can see it in another perspective. I know that most people globally see Facebook as the way to connect between you and your friends, you and your family, share some pictures of your events together, and not specifically for work, though you can. But LinkedIn is some kind of a social media platform that you can look for jobs or look for specific tasks. And there you can find leads as well and create your agency page and so on.
Absolutely.
From your perspective in Germany.
Yes. So, okay, I'm not the biggest user of LinkedIn right now because currently I have a job and I have just a Spartanic profile. I didn't even upload a photo yet. I really need to work on this. But in our agency, we are using a LinkedIn page, and I think we also have a LinkedIn group for the company. We are regularly posting or reposting our blog articles to get backlinks and even more traction. And I think LinkedIn is a great way for business in general. Yeah.
Okay, so let's wait for some questions from the audience. I see Asia in here. I see Barak. So if you'd like to ask anything about the agency, about coding, about anything, we're here. And if not, I would like to mention that this live will be recorded and uploaded to our YouTube channel. So you'll be able to see it if you're at work or anywhere else. I see that there are no questions at the moment. So Jan, it was a pleasure. Dankeschön.
Super welcome.
Thank you very much. We'll stay in here, but we'll say bye to everyone that took part in our live. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. And also, thank you for really for organizing this event. I really appreciated being here. And I also believe it's very important what you do to the community. And I hope you get to keep this up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for organizing and thanks for having me.